What's going on, everybody? Thanks for joining me again. Okay, so today I'm going to be doing a little bit of a lengthier video. And this video, I got to give a shout out to my man, Citizen Kane, for bringing this story to my attention, particularly the Roy Jones Joe Rogan interview. And I'll leave a link in the description of the video if you guys haven't checked it out. Just on part of the interview that is dealing with charisma and how Roy Jones found his charisma by separating himself from his father. And he goes into some details about how he did that and the things that it took for him to do that. But I'm not really going to concentrate on that. Basically, that interview led the way for me to actually come up with this video. And what I'm going to be explaining is, and I'm going to be using some definitions and a specific article that I came across, and how charisma, particularly the charisma of men, tie into feminism, and how feminism is aiming to destroy the male charisma. It does specify in this particular article about politics, but as you'll see, this article is completely baseless. It's totally inaccurate, and I'm not going to read the entire article to you because I don't want to bore you with 85% of it being completely based on one thing and one thing only. I believe that, unfortunately, the author of this article did not do her due diligence at all on any of the correct terms of what she was supposed to be talking about. Instead, she decided to point the finger and try to blame, I guess, men for certain things that women, I guess, apparently aren't charismatic. But as I get into detail, you'll see exactly how the type of trash that you can come across the internet, and how it's so easily to call this crap out because of the fact that these special interest groups allow these people to write articles and post them, and then they try to get people to believe in a certain word or term, and when it's totally not true. And I'm going to prove that this article is basically a bunch of BS. So, like I said, I'll leave a link in the description if you want to watch the Roy Jones interview, Charisma. And I'm going to move right into just the title of this article. So, now this article is about 3 years old. It's over 3 years old. But it still remains pretty relevant today. And then you can tell, and I'll read a little bit just so you can get an idea of just how so off base that it is. That and it's coming from the walrus.ca, so it's a Canadian writer here. And the name of this article, Why Media Obsession with Male Charisma Has to Stop. Now, I'm just going to stop right there just with the title of this article. Now, the article is written by a woman named Melissa J. Gismondi. Okay, and the article was published October 19th, 2017. Now, I don't know who her editor is. I don't know who the people at this walrus is. I don't know if they've ever been to school, because, of course, you've got to have 12 degrees to really understand what's going on in the world, right? I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous. I'm about to basically explain this thing away right now for all of you, just in case. So, here we go. First of all, let's just go with some facts here, right? I don't want to go with anything that I have an opinion on. This isn't anything that I have to say that I feel, because this isn't anything to do with personal feelings. I'm just going to go directly with the facts, and we're going to go to sub definitions and such, right? So, number one, let's go to the actual definition of the word charisma. All right, so it's a noun, right? Plural noun, charisma, charismata, right? So number one, compelling attractiveness or charm that can inspire devotion in others. Now, let me say that one more time. Compelling attractiveness or charm that can inspire devotion in others. First of all, attractiveness does not mean, it doesn't say physical attractiveness, right? I don't see that anywhere on here. And as you'll see with this definition, you will not find charisma having nothing to do with physical appearance. Okay, let me repeat that. You won't find that the definition of charisma has anything to do with physical appearance. Okay, so if we go here, similarities, right? Similar: charm, presence, or a personality, individuality, magnetism, animal magnetism, attractiveness, appeal, allure, pull, magic, spell, mystique, glamour. Okay, all right, so those are the base similes for the word charisma, right? So but if we dig a little bit deeper, we can find the origins of this word charisma, right? So if we look at the word, the origin of the word charisma comes from the word, two words, okay? One, favor, and two, grace. And I'm going to go into those two definitions of those two words and how they tie into charisma, right? So if we continue on, there's a graph here, and you'll probably see the graph here, and as the word charisma has been used throughout the last couple hundred years, you'll see that there's been an uptick since around 1940, say 1948, 49, maybe I guess maybe in the 30s, I guess maybe from the 30s to now, right, to present day where we're at right now. Okay, so from here you have seven signs that are that you are charismatic, even though you don't feel that you are. Now you could judge this however you feel, but at the same time, I mean, again, I want to repeat again, because I may repeat it a few times, because as you'll see in the article, a physical presence of a physical appearance presence of what charisma is does not define what charisma really is. All right, so here we go. There's 8 things here for this, and I'll just read them off. You have a genuine spark of life that rubs off on others. Number 2, believe in something powerful and share that belief with others. Number 3, you are a great storyteller. Number 4, you are empathetic. Number 5, you speak your mind. Number 6, you acknowledge discomfort or threat and process, or you acknowledge discomfort or threat and process it calmly, inwardly. Number 7, you take risks in being vulnerable, and that's going to be a key factor in this article that I'm going to explain. And so, and there is a bottom line, but I whatever, you guys could look into more of that. But just with those 7, just with those 7 descriptions right there, was going to give you an idea of just how baseless this article really is. All right, and also, since we are talking about feminism, and since we are talking about male versus female in this context, in a sense, right? We will be talking about what makes a woman charismatic. So here, real quick, if you look at here, it already says here, what makes a woman charismatic? And there's a few articles that you can find about between what's charismatic and charm, and what's the difference between charm and being charismatic. But I'm just going to go here real quickly and read this. They are making people feel important, right? They are genuinely fascinated in what you have to say, and would often rather talk about you than themselves. Now, of course, like that could get into, well, sure, if somebody wants to talk about you or talk about you more than themselves, I guess it depends on what they want to talk about. I mean, if it's all about materials, then that's probably not necessarily what you're looking for, as far as a woman to be asking you a bunch of questions on, right? They're willing to get real with you and ask thoughtful questions about you. Wow, how often does that even happen? as if you're the most important person in the world. Yeah. But that's just what that says of just a brief description of what can make a woman charismatic. But neither here nor there. All these terms and all these definitions, they apply to everyone, not just men. And I'm going to prove that they don't just apply to men, and that women are not being held down because they're not charismatic enough. That's it's completely ridiculous. But anyway, we're gonna moving on. So now that we covered that base, now we're gonna cover the definition of what favor is, right? So we've covered the definition of charisma, and kind of given some examples of that there. So here with favor, all right. See definition: all artifacts, and I guess I guess it ever refers, maybe probably referring to gender here. I won't say the word because of YouTube. But noun: approval, support, or liking for someone or something, right? Okay, so similar words: approval, approbation, right? Probably not, just totally probably butcher that word, but that's okay. Commendation, esteem, goodwill, kindness, benevolence, friendliness, right? And the opposite of those things: disfavor, disapproval, right? Number 2, an act of kindness beyond what is due or unusual. So an act of kindness beyond what is due or unusual means basically someone showing you these types of characteristics without you deserving them, and without them really because they wanting to do this, not because they have to do it or because someone's forcing them. It's because they're doing it out of their own goodwill of who they are as a person, right? Right? And similar to that: service, kindness, courtesy, indulgence, benefit, boon. All right? And so verb-wise: feel or show approval or preference for, right? So that's to advocate, to recommend, to advise, support, back, to champion, to stand up for, to urge, to promote, espouse, endorse, sanction, plug, push, preferred, favorite, recommended, chosen, choice, selected, ideal, particular, special. And I guess they threw pet in there, but why not, right? Number 2, often used in polite request. Okay, and here's the example: something that they want, right? To oblige, to accommodate, to gratify, to satisfy, to humor, to indulge, to honor. All right, so that right there is the definition of favor, which ties into the root. It's part of the base of what charisma is. It's tied to charisma. Favor is tied to charisma. All right. So now we're going to look at the definition of what grace is. Right. So, see here. So grace, like all Christian law mythology. Now this could get kind of interesting, right? Because obviously feminism does not prescribe to a god, so it would be hard pressed for them to actually want to be able to use this word because it's tied into Christianity. Go figure, right? But it's also tied into mythology, which well, in for feminists, I mean, mythology is very important. So they can't, it's almost like, well, we can't really use this because if we use this, then it may, even though it's part of what is believed for them, because there is no real God, but yet there's a Christianity aspect, and the word grace is tied to Christianity, right? And let me show you why. All right, so simple elegance or refinement of movement, right? Elegance, poise, finesse, charm, right? So charm is tied into charisma, right? And that's why I say, okay, you have charisma and you have charm, but charm is part of charisma, right? You have dexterity, adornness, fluency, flow, naturalness, neatness, smoothness, ease, agility, nimbleness, precision, right? And the opposite of these things is stiffness, uh, inelegance. Okay, number two, courteous goodwill. All right. So in order to have, wait a minute, so the number two definition of grace is courteous goodwill. Like, I mean, that sounds very genuine. It sounds like something that you're not putting on an act to be courteous goodwill if that's what this is, right? This is just the definition I'm reading here. Politeness, manners, good manners, right? And the verb. So the verb, do honor or credit to someone or something by one's presence, not by what someone has done, not by what someone is doing, not by not by who someone is, not by how much someone has, not by what someone's wearing, not by what someone's hairs look like, not by what how low cut someone's shirt may be, or whether they're wearing a pantsuit or a dress, or whether it's pink, purple, black, or yellow. No, it clearly states to do honor or credit to someone or something by one's presence. That's just for someone just being in the room. Anyway, why immediate obsession with male charisma has to stop. All right. So, I'm pretty much the first line right here is just gonna blow this whole article just out of the window. Obviously, right? I've just given you the definition, and here we go. Men use their style to get ahead in politics. What does style have to do with charisma? Like, okay, so but anyway, but women have to play by different rules. Now, again, women have to play by different rules. All right. Well, let's see what else is going on here, right? So Jagmeet Singh name has become nearly synonymous with the word charisma after he became the NDP's leader earlier this month. Mind you, this is back in 2017. The National Post declared that the NDP's aim is to fight fire with young, charismatic Jagmeet Singh as leader, right? Let's see. Vice News attested that Jagmeet Singh's invented charisma.
Yeah, whatever.
All right, I think pretty much that's right there. That's false, but whatever. Reports and editorials in the Toronto Star, the Guardian, the New York Times, GQ, and other outlets echoed sentiments highlight Singh's youthful fashion choices. What is fashion choices really? Okay, and engaging social media presence. They also drew inevitable comparisons to Justin Trudeau, who has been featured in Vogue, Rolling Stone, and Esquire, and whose socks have sparkled public discussion and punditry. All right, so obviously right there, right away, how in the world are you going to take the word charisma and even throw it into something like some physical appearance crap like Vogue, Rolling Stone, Esquire? Anyway, again, like I said, this article is complete trash and rubbish. But I'm gonna skip some parts because there's no sense of destroying your ears with this nonsense. But we're gonna scroll down here to the so-called examples that the author gives of charismatic leaders. Okay, so first of all, the author goes and decides to use Max Weber, which Max Weber was a sociologist back in the 19th century into the 20th century, but Max Weber died in 1920, and the author here says Weber's theory foreshadowed the rise of powerful figures like Adolf Hitler and Mao Zedong. So a man that died in 1920 somehow knew that someone as charismatic as Adolf Hitler would rise to power, or Mao Zedong would rise to power, and it's kind of it's kind of amusing to sit here and see that that this author would go to, well, both extremes of fascism and communism, but yet refuse to mention someone like Winston Churchill or FDR. Or, well, I mean, since we're already on that path, and, well, Max Weber died in 1920, well, why don't we just mention, I don't know, John F. Kennedy, or maybe, I don't know, Ronald Reagan, Barack Obama, um, I don't know. I mean, I guess you can go down the. How about Margaret Thatcher? Or you know what? How about the list in which I'm going to leave in the description as well, and you should see here. How about the list of the women that were the women world leaders, the history of the women world leaders, and I mean, I only scrolled down halfway through because the list is very long, but why didn't she mention this huge list of women world leaders throughout history, like Margaret Thatcher? Where was that mentioned here in the article? No, no, no. She only decided that Adolf Hitler and Mao Zedong were important to mention, far as charismatic, and just, oh wait, these are the males. Okay, these are the men. All right. So as we keep going, we see that. Again, here's another example of the institution of public education and where it has gotten us, and the effects of feminism in public education. Let's go. Right? Luis Carbe, right? A professor of political science at Dalhousie University, told me charisma doesn't inhere in the politician. It is a quality that exists in the mind of the citizen. In other words, charisma is not how people actually are, but how we perceive them. Like beauty, charisma is in the eye of the beholder, which elevates the role of fashion in shaping public perceptions. How is this person even a so-called professor? I mean, really? I mean, have they even stepped out of the classroom? I mean, do they even have a laptop in their office so that they can actually look up basic terms of what words mean, right? And not what just they think that they mean. And to sit here and say that charisma is not how people actually are, really? It's charisma is not how actually people are. Then what is it then? Right? You think it's fake? So basically, she's saying that charisma is fake, right? That's what this professor here is saying. That charisma doesn't exist. That it's not really real. It's all fake and it's all put on. It's all a show. Now, I just giving you the definition of what charisma means and the linking words that mean to it, and you tell me if any of those similarities or those other words that go along with that has to deal with anything about being fake. Does it have anything about being deceptive, and does it have anything about your appearance and how you look? I mean, I don't know. You let me know in the comments, and I'm sure some of you are going to thumb this down, whether you agree with the facts or not. And I don't really care. Please thumb down all you want. So again, as this goes on and talks about Justin Trudeau, and between this particular candidate, Justin Trudeau, and how them going back and forth about hair and stuff that's really completely irrelevant and doesn't have anything to do with male charisma at all, but yet somehow physical appearance just plays such a big notion in this, right? But on top of that, okay, so here's her best, and as I pointed out, the countless numbers well, I can't say countless, but if you look at the page, there's quite a bit. There's been quite a number of women world leaders in history, but yet she doesn't decide to, like I said, she does not decide to talk about any of those. But instead, who does she talk about? Who is the one female leader, right, that she decides to want to point out to say that this is a problem, right? Of course, it's Hillary Clinton, right? And she points out an article from the Washington Post from Hillary Clinton, because Hillary Clinton was being criticized for the types of clothes that she was wearing. And the title of this Washington Post article is called Hillary Clinton's Tentative Dip into New Neckline Territory. And she goes off and talks about the criticism of what this article sparked off and how it hurt Hillary. But she, and again, the author doesn't mention that the author of that Washington Post article is indeed a woman, and she's a fashion critic. So what does a fashion critic have anything to do with trying to judge a person's character on actual charisma? Can anyone answer that for me? It would be much appreciated if you could answer that for me in the comments to let me know of what a woman who criticizing another woman, right? Because this wasn't a man that sparked this article, and if this really was something that was a huge deal, why is she not mentioning that the author of that article is a woman, and that the fact that she's a fashion critic, it just doesn't make any sense. I'm just not seeing it. So basically it goes on and on. She gives other examples of other political leaders that have had statements about what they were wearing, things of which and the main like I said, the Jagmeet Singh's, she goes and tries to say that because he wears colorful turbans and he has a beard, and what he was saying is that the fact that, well, he's always been doing these things. He hasn't changed for the sake of whenever he decided to run for any political office. He's always been this way. This is how he is. This is who he is, right? Yes, it helped him in a sense of to get his message out, but it isn't something that actually he had to just switch up. Now, she does mention that Hillary Clinton had to switch up a new strategy or a new technique to try to change how people could view her, and that those things didn't work. And so that's what generally happens when you're trying to use a fake version of what is of what charisma is, to try to get people to think that you are a certain way when you actually are not. It's important to note that being charismatic, it involves of you being as genuine as possible, not being fake, not trying to change up for something, not trying to make it seem like you're this but you're really that. Like, when you are disingenuous, people can tell, people can see those types of things. And so he iterates that he hasn't, it's who he is. He hasn't changed anything. But then she points out and she proves the fact that Hillary Clinton tried to change things up and tried to do this and tried to do that, and every time there was some sort of criticism, it was like they either said this or said that. You either you're too feminine if you do this, and you're not feminine if you do that. If you look at the definition again, you will see that if part of being charismatic is taking risks, right? So it is a huge risk to be vulnerable. And if you're unable to be vulnerable, that means if you're unable to truly be yourself, then people will generally see through that, no matter what you try to do. All right. So just on that point, let's see. Is there anything else here that means anything? Not really. Like I said, it's just a useless, trashy article. But I mean. Guys, you can find stuff like this all over the internet just by doing a little bit of research and finding this stuff out. And when you see it, I mean, don't be afraid to call this kind of stuff out. I mean, people are generally going to be upset because they're going to think that, oh, well, you're just mansplaining, or you're a woman hater, or you're misogynistic. But really, when you're reading it, and when you're reading something like this, and you just read as much misandry as has been placed in here, and how men are to blame, and that they need to stop being men, this tells you where we are in our society. of how we've turned basically into a group of individuals, and I mean men, and the fact that we don't stand up for who we are. We don't allow ourselves to be men, and we allow other people, specifically women, to judge and try to tell us and nitpick us on who we're supposed to be and how we're supposed to act and all these other sorts of things. And what's really sad is that there are good women out there that I mean, are they afraid to stand up for men out here? I mean, because really, that's the only way things are going to change, really, if women actually get in their own camp and start putting these women in their place. Start putting these women and start calling them out for their lies. But again, I just wanted to bring this to you guys' attention. And again, shout out to Citizen Kane for bringing that Roy Jones story to my attention, and it just led me to this direction. Okay, so the fight is real against feminism, guys, and to let you know, everything starts with yourself. So look up those definitions, tell me what you think, and be sure to leave a comment on the video and start a discussion about this.